Okay, I want to say my piece on game key cards that are for Switch 2. Basically, I feel to sum it up. Well, let's just start here. I have a lot to say. Um, Game key cards. The situation with games are not good for the two camps of people that buy games on Nintendo Switch. You have either your physical game collectors or your people who just like to buy digital. So, a game key card is not good for people who buy digital because when you buy digital, you like to have something that is convenient that you could just click an icon on your home screen, start up the game, and it just boots up. Obviously, having a game key card, you need to have the game key card inserted to access the game. And it's the game key card is not good for physical collectors because for a physical collector, you like to basically have your pretty much all of your game, the file size on the cartridge, so you don't have to download anything. So for a physical collector, it's got the downside of not being fully on the cartridge and you have to download stuff. And for the digital collector, it doesn't have the convenience of just being able to click on your icon on your home screen and start it up. So basically, right now, those two major camps, those are the two, I'd say, biggest things that are the draws for either a physical game collector or a digital game collector. Because the game key card still offers you the ability now to then resell your game key card, but obviously once the servers are down. But for from what I understand, for that argument of, well, when the servers go down, the game key card is worthless. The Wii game system had digital purchases, and if you purchase stuff on your Wii, you can still access your purchases even though the stores are down. You just can't buy any new purchases. Same thing for the Wii U and the 3DS. I mean, the stores are down, so you can't buy anything new digitally. But if you had something tied to your account and your system goes online, you can still re-download. From what I understand, I have not tried this because everything that I have on my systems are still installed on there, and that's it for that. So that is what I would say is the downside that is upsetting people who are either physical game collectors or digital game collectors. Because yeah, you can amass a digital library. So that is the drawbacks of having a game key card, and then also with the game key card, the whole game is not on the cartridge. Um, so a lot of people consider it fake physical, and the situation is, from what I understand, I don't know if we have anything of, because Nintendo is not officially really giving information on this stuff. They're not talking about this. We're getting this from other sources in the news, but from what I understand, there is only one size cartridge, which is a 64 gigabyte cartridge, and from what I understand, it's about $15 or $16 cost. Now, most third party games have dropped down to like $20. Now, when you say 20, the publisher of the game is not getting that 20, the retailer is getting the 20. So the publisher is not selling the game to the retailer for $20. They're selling it to them for a little less because the retailer who is selling the cartridge or the game has to make a profit on these things. So when people are talking about prices, they're not understanding that there is, middlemen, sell-throughs, blah, blah, blah. People, everyone's getting a little cut of everything. So when we're talking prices, like when you talk about a game is $70, the retailer is seeing 70. but the retailer may be purchasing that game. If a retailer can put a game on sale for like 40, I mean, maybe I think there could be a situation where the publisher can give like a discount to certain retailers and say, "Hey, you bought this game from me for 50, but I understand you want to sell it for 40, so we'll give you a $20 coupon for what you already purchased, or maybe you could use it for future purchases from games that we're releasing in the future." I mean, I don't know specifically. I've never worked management in retail like that to know how that works with the middleman and the purchasing, and how that works with all those different things that can happen. But you got to understand that there is that situation. So when these game key cards are costing $15, $16, that is something that is a set price that's not going to go down until enough of these. And that might be also why Nintendo made sure there was only one size. So if everyone is buying the same one size, eventually you're going to get competition where people who are creating these game key cards to sell for publishers to put their games on will eventually start competing with each other and say, "Oh, well, I have a 64 gigabyte and we want you to buy from us, so we'll make it a little bit cheaper here for you to buy it." But if you have different sizes and everyone is splitting up what they're buying, like people are buying just enough or they're buying just a little bit like they were doing in the past with third-party games, and those games, you get like 8 gigabytes or 4 gigabytes on the card because that's all the card holds, and then you got to download the rest of the game. That's what most of these third-party developers were doing anyway, which, as a person who bought games, I would rather get something off of what I'm using on my storage, especially the fact that games are going up in size on Switch 2. I mean, you're talking about some games are averaging like 40, 50 gigabytes, for these game key cards or digital editions, whatever you want to call them. So, you're using up a lot of storage, which is also, to talk about storage, this is why Nintendo has made their storage go from, I think it was 64 gigabytes on the OLED, which was the biggest they had for Switch 1 for internal storage, and now it's 256 gigabytes for storage. So the reason why Nintendo did something like that is because there is a known contract with Activision for Call of Duty to be on Nintendo consoles for 10 years. And Call of Duty's, if you understand, the file sizes are ridiculous. So Nintendo wants to probably make sure that you can download, because Call of Duty is not going to be on a card. There's no way that there's no cartridge big enough for something that a Call of Duty would be. So Nintendo is probably wanting to make sure that if you're downloading this game to your system, you can fit the whole game on your system, and you don't have to buy a separate micro SD card, which some games in Switch 1 generation said micro SD card requires, kind of like the NBA 2K games. Those games, you needed a micro SD card because they were bigger than the internal storage size. So technically, you had to make a separate purchase of an SD card to play those games, on your Nintendo Switch if you purchased them. So that's why Nintendo is probably trying to make sure that there's enough storage on the system that if you wanted to get Call of Duty, and Call of Duty is going to be like 200 gigabytes, well, you could put that one game on your system, and then that's it. You're set. That's all you have on there. So that's probably what they're doing for that. But these game key cards, I mean, I bought them. I don't like them. I would obviously rather have a game that was completely on the cartridge. And I have gone out of my way to purchase games that I probably would have waited a while longer. But like with Cyberpunk and Rune Factory what is it? Guardians of Azuma. I think that's the one. That it's supposed to be fully on the cartridge, although Guardians of Azuma has a 12 gigabyte extra download so far. I believe Cyberpunk actually has anywhere from 3 to 6 gigabytes, which also, if you bought Witcher 3 on the Switch 1 physically, there was an update file that did like updated textures that they couldn't fit on the cartridge. So you got the game, but there was a little update for that one also. So you're going to get a little something. But like I said, if most of it is on the cartridge and you could save me on internal storage or micro SD storage express on the Switch to micro SD express, if you could save me on storage space and I could just have my game on there mostly, I would appreciate that. I understand that the reason why they're only doing the one file size is also because games are going to become bigger. It is imperative that Nintendo starts hammering away at selling games on 60, because Nintendo is, they don't need full 64 gigabytes for most Nintendo games. I mean, Donkey Kong is only 10 gigabytes, I believe, the new Donkey Kong game, but it's going to be on a 64 gigabyte cart because that's all there is. Because if enough of these carts are purchased from whoever is manufacturing them, then eventually the manufacturer will say, okay, we're starting to see that a lot of these are being manufactured and bought. We're going to start giving discounts to people to use them, the publishers. So, I mean, that's why they're doing that. Like I said, I don't like the situation, but also I don't mind. Like I said, I did buy some game key cards, but like a game like Street Fighter 6, I mean, that's the kind of game where like I want to jump in to it for a little bit, for a few matches. Even Mario Kart, that's the Mario Kart World, that's all on the cartridge. I got the digital bundle, obviously, because it was cheaper to get the bundle with the system, but also I was going to get it digitally anyway, because a game like Mario Kart or Street Fighter, if it's a game that I'm going to jump into for like a few minutes to do like a race or a fight, like a quick couple of matches, or maybe even do something online, like I want it digital so I could just have the convenience, especially with Street Fighter, where if it's a game key card, I'm downloading the whole thing anyway. I don't want the restriction of having to find the cartridge, take the cartridge out there, because I usually keep a cartridge in my system that I'm currently playing, like swap cartridges and go back and forth. I want to be able to just, like, games that I'm going to jump in, jump out, I'm just going to buy them digitally anyway. So for me, game key cards, I mean, Bravely Default, it was a very small size for the game, and they obviously aren't going to shell out for a 64 gigabyte cart on a game that's selling for $40. So why would they do that? So, I mean, I understand why it's not done. I wish that games were made that way. The sales, the fact that a lot of companies are saying that the sales are a lot lower than their expectations. Now, I've seen, I don't know, because Matt Piscatella said something, someone said, but I didn't look at what he had sent out on Blue Sky about it, that basically the Switch 2 third-party games are selling a lot better than the Switch 1 third-party games did at launch for both systems. But obviously, Switch 1 didn't have good third-party support because during Switch 1, they were coming off the Wii U Nintendo. So a lot of third parties didn't want to support Nintendo until they saw that there was, actual sales coming in for the systems. So obviously, Nintendo has done very well. They've broken a record for launch sales for a console. So, I mean, the sales for the console are hopefully going to continue and be there. We'll see in the next couple of months, with tariffs, supply constraints, this and that. trying to get the consoles into the country before tariffs go off, so Nintendo can stockpile them here in the U.S. Yeah, I mean, do I think that? I mean, people obviously, yeah, they're probably thinking the same way that I am. Is that I'd rather just buy the game digitally if I'm gonna get a game key card. I mean, I know for some people that are like, oh, I could sell my game back, or when I'm done with it, I can get rid of it or whatever. But it's kind of like, I mean, personally, I don't sell games back because I've learned the hard way. Whenever I've in the past, and this is a long time ago, I used to sell my games back to GameStop. This is like maybe a decade ago, and I stopped because the first batch that I did a large batch of the stuff I was done with, and they gave me like pennies for some of these things, and I took it because I was like, oh, it's something, and I didn't think like what I'm not getting anything really for it on the trade in, and then on top of it, then if I ever do want to play the game again, or like I know someone that I know that wants to play the game and I could have lent it to them, like it's better just to keep them, obviously, space wise. If you're running out of space, then it's a hardship. But I mean, I don't. I'm sure that there has been a negative impact on sales for people who are boycotting, but in the past we've seen that boycotts really don't help the situation. But I feel that this is like the straw for people. But listen, I mean, also you got to understand too, the console itself was expensive. It was probably more expensive than most people expected. Then you had the controllers, that the accessories went up. The controller, if you got a console, a controller, and a camera, that came to about, I'd want to say around 700 with tax, maybe even close to 800. So if you're spending that much, and then that's if you got the bundle with Mario Kart, you'll probably just go with Mario Kart. Are you really buying a game? Like, I'm sure people bought a game because they wanted to have something, but you also didn't want to have to buy a game that you had to download. But if you think about it, I mean, yeah, most games are on discs for PlayStation and Xbox. Well, Xbox not as much. They're also doing the loading disc where you just get a loader that downloads the whole game. But for the most part, you have to take that disc and put it on your storage. So when it comes to saving storage on Xbox and PlayStation, you do not. Because even if you have the disc and the game is on the disc, you still have to install that whole game to your console. So you are not saving anything on storage with Xbox and PlayStation games. But when it comes to like third parties, because this is really something that's only going to really affect third parties, because for the most part, most first party Nintendo games are going to be fully on the cartridge. Nintendo has already kind of, I guess, guaranteed that. I don't want to say that officially because I don't remember if they did. But for the most part, there are like something like Welcome Tour that it's a $10 game. They're not going to put on a cartridge. But I'm sure Drag X Drive is not going to be on a cartridge. That's going to be a digital only title. But it's pretty much for third party games. And to be honest, I mean, some third party games, yeah, I mean, listen, Nintendo, if especially like I'm going into a situation where I have to pretty soon go to the hospital for a scheduled surgery, one of possibly 2 to 3 surgeries that I have to go through. And when you're in a hospital situation, I mean, having something like the Switch is great to be able to get to your games because your stuff is going to be natively on the system. And, something like the PS Portal, you have to use internet to stream from download play or remote play, it's called. Remote play to your portal. So playing a Switch is optimal in a situation like that. So if that's your only situation where you could play on the Switch, then yeah, you want to get your third parties there because that's all you have. But if you have another option, to be honest, and you really don't play portable that much, like portable isn't a thing, like you don't need to give your TV over to someone else who is using it, then honestly, you're probably going to get your third parties elsewhere, and Nintendo's going to be mostly for obviously your first parties, which you can't get elsewhere unless you're, a dirty pirate and you're downloading stuff to another thing that you shouldn't be playing your Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch 2 games, which I don't advise. I don't think you should do, and I would not do that myself. But I mean, your third parties you're probably going to get elsewhere, so it's not that big of a deal. But if the third party support dries up because the third parties realize that these games are not selling on the Switch, you're going to have a very bad console generation with Nintendo. And one of the reasons that third parties weren't there for the Wii U is because the Wii U did not sell the consoles to justify third parties to come and make their games and make it profitable. But even if Nintendo sells a lot of consoles for Switch 2, but consumers are not buying the third-party games on Switch 2 because they don't like the game key card situation and they don't like the all-digital that's going on, then third parties are either going to have to make a choice. They're going to have to possibly raise their prices to make it profitable for them to put these games on the cartridges, or they're just gonna stop supporting the Nintendo Switch 2 unless it's like, a company that has supported Nintendo in the past and will just keep being there for it. But I feel like the line is drawn, and this can either go really good where, I mean, I don't want to see game prices go up, but if companies decide to make their games wholly on the cartridge and commit to that, then I would definitely pay a little bit more money as, someone who likes to collect, their games and have them physical for preservation purposes also. So yeah, those are my thoughts. I don't want to see game prices go up, but I feel that that's where third parties are going to go to. The situation, especially with Atlas and Square, just not committing to these 64 gigabyte carts. I think I don't like it. I understand, but I don't like it. Anyway, like, subscribe, comment. This is Casual Noob Gamer or Casual Noob Cybot signing out. Later.